Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. So today we have a tutorial on jumpsuit, how will I call it now? Uh, Jacket jumpsuit. Okay, so basically one part of it has a jacket and the other part, and it's a jumpsuit also. So we're going to start an off-shoulder jumpsuit. So let us start. So first we'll be getting our jumpsuit. We'll be getting the bottom of the jumpsuit, right? So we'll get so the length I'm using, because it's a pencil jumpsuit, right? So it's going to be ankle length. So I'm using 42 for the trouser length, basically based on the person's height though. I'm using 42 for the length, and I'm using 14 I mean 28 and a half for the thigh of the lady, and her hip is 46 and her waist is 37. So now we're going to be marking our trouser block. So I'm using 28 and a half, which is 14 and quarter. Then I'll be adding 1 inch to the block. So I'm doing 15 and quarter, and I'm going to mark it all the way from top to bottom. Okay, so the next time I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to like mark out 1 inch from the side. I'm going to mark out 1 inch, right, and curve it down and taper it down to 7 inches. Okay. So this is going to act like the curve. Then I'm going to now start my measurement from that 1 inch I marked off. So her waist is 37. That is into 4, that's 9 and quarter. Right. Now for jumpsuits, I usually add 1.5 inches to the waist alone. That's how I do mine. So I'm going to add 1.5. Right. 1.5. Okay. Then I mark it. Then the hip distance is 10 inches. And for jumpsuits, anyway, it depends on but most times I like to use 13 inches as my distance, so that it doesn't hook the person at the flap area, right? So it's not tight at the flap area. So I continue. So at the hip, her hip is 46, which is 11 and a half. Okay. So on a normal, I'm supposed to add just quarter inch, that's 0.5 inch, 0.25 to the hip, okay, for ease. But I want to add half inch. But on normal day, 0.25 I'm supposed to add for ease, for trousers. Okay. So now I take that same measurement all the way down, then take my measurement all the way up. I curve it to the thigh, right? Then the lower thigh. So basically this whole block, as we all know, is the upper thigh. The whole block, right, is the upper thigh. the whole block plus 1 inch is the whole block, right? The block is made up of the upper thigh plus 1 inch. So we have taken care of the upper thigh this way, right? So now the lower thigh at 21 inch, we mark the lower thigh. So what I usually do is, right, um so like I made the flap distance, I made it 13 inches. So now at this point, I take it one from 1 inch below the flap. I curve it in. I curve it in at 1 inch. That I curve the lower thigh in at 1 inch, right? Then now her lower thigh, I'm using 20. I'm using 23 inches for her lower thigh. That's 11 and a half. So basically, after curving it in by 1 inch from the upper thigh, curve it in by 1 inch to the lower thigh. Then from that 1 inch, you take your remaining measurements. Okay, then you mark. Okay, so at the bottom now, we're going to be taking it out more inches, of course, because it's a pencil. It's a penciled jumpsuit. So at the bottom, I'm marking 2 inches. At this lower thigh area, I marked out 1 inch. So at the bottom now, I'm marking out 2 inches. Okay. So I rule down connect it from the lower thigh to the bottom. Right. Then from that 2 inches, right, I now mark my instep, what we call instep, because of course we know that for we all know that as long as the fabric is not stretchy at the bottom, if you use the round the ankle to mark this, it's going to be smaller than the instep. Basically, the round ankle may be maybe 8, let's just say 10 inches. But if you now use that 10 inches to mark the bottom, that's 5 into 2 is 5. You are going to be getting a wrong, as in the person will not be able to put her legs inside. So what we used to do is to measure the instep. If you are doing a pencil trouser or a pencil jumpsuit, you have to measure the instep to get. So the instep is the point at which the trouser can actually enter the person's legs. Okay, person's can pass through the person's feet. That's what we call the instep. So the instep here, I'm using 13 and a half for her. And I'm using is 13. 13 should enter her leg, but I'm using 14 for the instep. Okay, so this is it. 14 into 2 is 7. So we mark. Okay, so we've gotten our jumpsuit, as in the bottom. We've just gotten the bottom now. So this is how the bottom looks like. So this is how the bottom. Well, for this particular jumpsuit, I actually had to. I'm just showing you how I cut the bottom, but I actually had to cut it on a lining first before I had to go, because I had to get the actual pattern. The jumpsuit has a pattern, and I have to get that pattern. So I had to cut it on a lining first before cutting out the pattern. So I've already cut out the bottom. I'm just showing you how I got the bottom. Okay. The upper part, right? Like I explained, the upper part is an off shoulder, like our tube, as you call it, right? So I have already cut it out. Okay. So what we did at this point was to her underbust is 15 and a half, her bust point is 11 and a half, her shoulder to bust point 11 is 11, her shoulder to underbust 15 and a half. So what I did, right, is to, after I marked out the points, I removed one, as in one from each side for the upper part, right? Then for the bottom at the underbust for the center front, I removed 0.75. Okay, then for the side front, I removed 1.75 for the side front. Then of course, when you do it like that, you now check if the you check the distance from the upper bust to the under bust, and check the distance from the on the side front, and also do the same on the center front. Okay, of course there was a half-inch difference, or a quarter-inch difference, that I now had to augment. I had to add extra quarter, I think it was quarter-inch or so, to the upper part to make up the center front. Okay, so this was how I cut the center front. So now we are talking about, one part of the jumpsuit has a, will I call it, a skirt like attachment on one part. So how we were able to get the skirt like attachment was, of course, I her waist is 37, which is 9 and 1/4. Okay, so I added just 1 inch. Then her hip is 46. Of course, if you notice on that part, on the model, or if you notice on the model, the hip area is bigger than the normal hip line of the person. Okay, so her hip is 46, which is 11 and a half, 12 and a half, but I still added 1 more inch. Okay, to make, because the hip is a bit bigger, is a bit exaggerated at the hip line. Then I just removed about I squared it and just removed about half-inch from the knee area, or the bottom, not the knee area, the bottom. Okay, so why I cut it on lining first is because, like the other part, I have to follow the dress has a pattern I have to follow. I have to adhere to, so I have to cut it on the lining first before, or cut it on paper or the lining first before I now try to get the pattern out of the fabric. Okay, so that's why I did that. And now see it. Okay. What is this jacket? I was making the jacket. Um, the jacket length is going to be such that it is 10 inches below the waist, at least 10 inches below the waist. Okay, so since we gave our half length, 17 and a half, so basically we are looking at the jacket length being at 27 and a half. Okay, so now we're going to now give 1.5 inch extra for sewing allowance, and for the sewing and joining allowance. So we're making the whole jacket length 29 inches. So we mark. Now, what we want to do again now is we want to, well, I'm adding a two of, so for the lapel area, I'm adding 2.5 inches extra. Okay, So her shoulder is 16. Okay. So her shoulder is 16 and the jacket, that half jacket doesn't have a shoulder part. So I'm just leaving half inch extra. Okay. Take it right down to the armhole distance for here now. I'm using 8. Okay. Then for the okay, her bust line is 11. Okay. So 8, 11, right? And we mark half length 17. All right. So we'll be marking the statistics of the person now. Our bust is 42. That's 10 and a half, right? I'm adding 1.5 inch extra because I want to put that and waist that on this jacket. Our waist is 37. Okay, that's 9 1/4. Okay, so now I'm adding 2 inches because I'm putting waist that. Okay, so then our hip is 46. I'm also adding 1.5 inch. That's 11 and a half, and I'm adding 1.5 inch. Okay, so curve it down. Of course, you know why I'm marking it on the lining is because either lining or I was supposed to use either lining or brown paper or paper basically, because I need to get the particular pattern of on the clothes. There's a particular alignment I'm supposed to get. Okay, so the okay, so I'm using 2 3/4 for the width of the neck. Then I'm slanting down my shoulder, and I think I also want to put a bust dart on the cloth. If I remember, I would have used the red lining so that I'll just use it at once. Okay, I'm marking another one, but it's all right. It's all good. So we mark it this way. I make it okay. Let me make it 3.5. Okay, so it now go back to 3. Okay. Then I take it down to the waist. So take it straight down to the waist. I'm just keeping half inch at the waist. Why? Because of course we know that it is a false lapel, it's a false jacket. It's just something that is on top of the jumpsuit. They take it half inch down. So the half inch we are leaving is just for us to use it to turn the lining at this point. Okay, so we cut. So what we're going to do for the back of this outfit now, of course, this part that one part is tube like and one part is has a shoulder and has a jacket and all that. So the back too also has to have a shoulder. So what we're going to do for the at the back is to also make the back in such a way that I think I'll add an upper part to that back, to one side of the back, and make it V, and V it to the zip side, so that it now rhymes with the front. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So basically, this is how it's going to be after we're done. Then I will show. Let me show you what I'm talking about for the back. Okay, so the lapel. Remember, even if there's a slight modification, guys, I noticed the slight modification. So the jacket area is not actually a lapel jacket. It's a jacket that I'll add a cape, an attachment on. So I had to cut out the the lapel attachment. Okay, I had to cut it out so that I had to cut out this thing excess for the lapel so that I can attach the cape, because it's a cape jacket and not a lapel jacket. Okay, so now I want to cut the face. What do I call it now? Like the facing. Okay, so I want to cut the facing, because even if the jacket is not a lapel jacket, it's still good for every jacket to have the facing by the side. Okay, so this is how it looks. Okay, so we're going to use the lining to complete it, and we're going to be using the interface we're going to be using for the jacket and for the peplum or the hip attachment. The attachment on the other side is hard paper stay. Okay, that's the interface we're going to be using. So as we sew, we'll show you how it goes. One thing I forgot to show you people is how to cut the cape now, since it has a cape. Okay, and I think the cape is just on the on that just on the front. So what I did was to I tilted the jacket and the body in such a way that I can actually get my cape. Okay, so I hope you can see what I did. So this is it. I tilted it in such a way that I'm able to get the cape. And I just give a little bit of inches, like maybe quarter inch when I cut. So this is our cake. And just attach it to this point. And sew it in. Right. So that's it. Okay. So what I was saying is that we know that the back of the dress, I cut it. You know, it's a tube. It's an off shoulder and a tube dress, a tube jumpsuit, so to speak. Okay, so I cut the back straight. Okay, but now because of the other part of the back, that joins to the jacket, that's connected to the jacket, I have to now add a neckline to one of the upper parts so that it's now rhymes with the so that it can connect to the jacket. So what I'm going to do is I'll first keep a zip allowance. Okay. And zip allowance is 1.5 inch. Okay. So now um I'm using a distance of 10 inches. 9 should still be okay because okay, let me just say 10 inches. So this neckline I'm adding now is just for one part. Okay. So from this part, from this zip allowance now, remember that the neckline for the front I used was 2 3/4. Okay, so we'll still use that same neckline here. And the zip area, I mean the tube that the back, okay, I started it from 8. By the time so I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to mark, we want this neckline to connect with we want this neckline to connect with the other neckline. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. So we're going to make it happen now. Then of course the shoulder is 16, add 1/2 inch. Okay. So basically this is what we're adding. So this is what we are adding to the back of the side that joins with the jacket. This is what we are going to add. So um as we continue, I will show you how it goes. So this is how the jumpsuit came out. You can see the false jacket, you can see the other part, the hip attachment, you can see everything. So we hope you try yours. Thank you for watching and see you some other time. Bye.